Hi, everyone. Welcome to the segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And looks like Tucker Carlson and the media coverage, or the counter media coverage, are virtue signaling again. And a lot more coming right up. And we'll keep this real under 60. Hi, everybody. Welcome again to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And I just have just a few things for you. We'll keep it, as I said, real under 60. And I hope you guys are doing great on your Friday. It is. So, of course, this week we were not short on, I don't know, more bombshells and a little bit more the media echo chambers, or they just seem to be getting they've just expanded a little bit. I think we've had the talk, we've had the Fox News talk here on Black Spring, and I don't know, I have a couple of things to share with you here. And of course, you're going to hear a little bit from Tucker Carlson, of course, a bit from Hillary Clinton herself, and just a little bit on the Great Reset. And I don't know where you are on that, but maybe you have a little bit of room to entertain the assertion here. And I just want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. And I just want to do a shout out to the loyal patrons, the subscribers, as well as the followers on Periscope. And with that said, I want to go ahead and give a word for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. If you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to just start off. I think we could start off with a little bit from the media. And whenever I find it very advantageous to share any of the briefings, and this one will come from the White House briefing with the White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. And it looks like, maybe they had a little bit less, just slightly, not, I wouldn't say they're slightly less offensive questions today, but it seems that even OAN is asking questions about the intelligence community, because I mentioned earlier this week that I thought that it was pretty anticipated that with all of the allegations happening that we haven't heard from them, but at least, the press, at least OAN is, asking questions that are a little bit more stimulating than the regular lineup from the Mockingbird media. So we'll start with a couple of clips from the White House press secretary, and then we'll move on to a bit of the, what do you want to say, the fallout with Tucker Carlson. And of course, we'll hear from Hillary Clinton herself and her thoughts on capitalism and economics and being progressive on economics and going forward. And that kind of feeds into the Great Reset, the tone of the Great Reset. So I hope you guys are doing well out there. And hello, Jackson A2000. Shout out to the friends, or hello to the friends in chat. Hello, AZ Infidel. And Son of Sam 0. Thank you so much for coming in. And so we'll get started right away with that. But I'll have just a little bit of commentary for you. I have my own assertions, and who knows what comes up. I have that my own assertions on, of course, Tucker Carlson, and of course the Fox News, and of course there will be, in that we will address a little bit of the Giuliani / Powell press conference as well. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll start with the first clip.
That campaign attorney Sidney Powell had failed to provide evidence for her assertion about communist money in the 2020 election. And Byron York, another journalist who's been very fair to this White House, said that it was a turning point, Rudy Giuliani and the conduct at that press conference, where Republicans were feeling that the legal maneuvers just aren't working. So did you all have a reaction to that when you saw that and read about it?
Again, that would be a question for the campaign. We at the White House are aggressively working on COVID, winding down the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, among other issues. There will be a drug pricing announcement later in the afternoon as well.
Okay, since I'm the cooler, could I have a question?
All right. So you have a little bit there from Kayleigh McEnany and, of course, the Mockingbird media. And good morning to Melinda Ann Burns. Thanks so much for coming in. And Hazy, Hazy says that Tucker bumped his head. I don't know. You see the roles. I don't know. I can't say that I see that there's an actual change in these people. I can't. And when I say these people, I'm referring to the journalist. And I still give Tucker a journalist. Give him. He can keep his journalistic moniker, but the activist, he's not. He's still not quite an activist. So, I mean. But I'll get to that in just a second. So with that said, I'll go ahead and take you on to a part of the fallout with Tucker Carlson. So we'll get right into that. I hope you guys are doing well. So yeah, so let's go ahead and dig into the Tucker Carlson, and then we'll go back. We're going to do a little bit of, I guess I call it a ping pong, a little bit of rallying here, because all of this to me kind of fits together. With my own summation or with my own, hypothesis here. So we'll go ahead and take you to the Tucker Carlson clip. I thought I'd give you, he, of course, I'm not sure if you guys have heard this or if you watched it, but I will play some of that for you, a little bit of it in context, and then we'll put it together. It says Tucker knows that this is not going to be tried in the media, and it is going to go to court. Okay, so with that said, I will take you there right now. Thanks, guys.
And flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system. And that's what caused them to have to shut down in the states they shut down in.
That was a few hours ago, but Sidney Powell has been saying similar things for days. On Sunday night, we texted her after watching one of her segments. What Powell was describing would amount to the single greatest crime in American history. Millions of votes stolen in a day. Democracy destroyed. The end of our centuries-old system of self-government. Not a small thing. Now, to be perfectly clear, we did not dismiss any of it. We don't dismiss anything anymore, particularly when it's related to technology. We've talked to too many Silicon Valley whistleblowers. We've seen too much. After 4 years, this may be the single most open-minded show on television. We literally do UFO segments, not because we're crazy or had even been interested in the subject, but because there is evidence that UFOs are real and everyone lies about it. There's evidence that a lot of things that responsible people used to dismiss out of hand as ridiculous are in fact real. And we don't care who mocks it. The louder the Yale Political Science Department and the staff of the Atlantic magazine scream, conspiracy theory, the more interested we tend to be. That's usually a sign you're over the target. A lot of people with impressive sounding credentials in this country are frauds. They have no idea what they're doing. They're children posing as authorities, and when they're caught, they lie and then they blame you for it. We see that every day. It's the central theme of this show and will continue to be. So that's a long way of saying we took Sidney Powell seriously. We had no intention of fighting with her. We've always respected her work. We simply wanted to see the details. How could you not want to see them? So we invited Sidney Powell on the show. We would have given her the whole hour. We would have given her the entire week, actually, and listened quietly the whole time at rapt attention. That's a big story. But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page. When we kept pressing, she got angry and told us to stop contacting her. When we checked with others around the Trump campaign, people in positions of authority, they told us Powell has never given them any evidence either, nor did she provide any today at the press conference. Powell did say that electronic voting is dangerous, and she's right. We're with her there. But she never demonstrated that a single actual vote was moved illegitimately by software from one candidate to another. Not one. Why are we telling you this? We're telling you this because it's true. And in the end, that's all that matters, the truth. It's our only hope. It's our best defense. And it's how we're different from them. We care what's true, and we know you care too. That's why we told you. Maybe Sidney Powell will come forward soon with details on exactly how this happened and precisely who did it. Maybe she will. We are certainly hopeful that she will. What happened with the vote counting this month and at the polling places in Detroit and the polling places in Philadelphia and so much else actually matters. It matters no matter who you voted for. It matters whether or not you think this election is already over. Until we know the answers to those questions conclusively and we can agree on them, this country will not be united.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there you can see, of course, a little bit. I'm sure some people are not quite happy with the framing of Tucker Carlson's assertion and Fox News's attempt to contact Sidney Powell. But I mean, in this case, I'm not sure if his demands to me are really not that much different than the other mainstream media mockingbirds. They're all asking for evidence as if the case would actually be tried. The evidence would all be just rolled out in front of the media. Just roll it out. We want it all right now. And unless you do that, then there's nothing to see here, right? So I think that's going to be the point of. I think that's the point of one of the points of discontent with what Tucker Carlson was, to me, what he was setting up there. He says, "Why are we telling you this? Because the truth matters, and that's how we are different from them." And I'm just thinking, who is he comparing himself to? Is he trying to put Fox back on the map and say, "Hey, we're just trying to get the truth out here. That's what we're doing. At least we're offering you that." So we'll see what happens. I think a lot more people are, of course, they're walking away from Fox, whether they are conservatives at, whatever shade of the spectrum that you think that you're on. I think they are, because they don't like the way they are framing what's being alleged. And so also he continues with, of course, the conspiracy framing, and it's really not that much different than Fox and Friends or some of the other networks, or even some of the CNNs and the MSNBCs. Is very much similar. But of course, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see what else that happens there. But I think some things will come out, but it's not going to come out in front of the media. It's not going to be tried in front of the media. That is unrealistic, and it's disingenuous. So we'll just keep our eye on that as usual. And we have a word from Killer Whale Channel says Tucker is the last bastion of hope for Fox, and they will start telling him what to say. Tucker will leave Fox within the next 3 months. That's definitely interesting. Thank you so much, Killer Whale Channels, for tuning in. And we have Papa Bear Alaska. You don't expose evidence prior to court proceedings. Touche, Papa Bear Alaska. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That it's disingenuous. And I mean, come on, Tucker, you know better than that. I mean, you've been doing this for a little while. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't still be on the air, right? But we'll see. We'll see. We have Jackson A2000 that says, I don't think that would be smart. Don't trust mainstream media. Hello to Nick Smith. Thanks so much for coming in. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And so I'm going to bring you another clip that comes from the White House press secretary with Kayleigh McEnany, because I think there's only one or two of the media representatives, if I can say, that seems to show bring any logic and reason to the questions that they ask in the press secretary meetings or conferences. And I think this is a representative from OAN. And this is a question that I posed earlier this week about, the national intelligence agencies. Are they going to enter the ring or throw their hat into the ring and make a comment about this? Or are they just going to keep it going? And I know Christopher Wray is a head that many people would like to see roll. I mean, but he's loyal to the FBI. He's loyal to the establishment of Washington, D.C. And I think he's made that clear. When they enjoy bipartisanship, I mean, the nation, what's best for the nation is at the bottom. So I'm going to take you there and then we'll keep going. So most of the theme here today is centered around what's probably going to be a Tucker Carlson fallout, and a little bit, I think it was a little bit of him, a little bit of undermining or a little bit discrediting Sidney Powell. And I don't think most people are going to like that. So one more follow-up from the press secretary's conference.
And there is real-time data showing vast irregularities in the voting system that we have watched over the last few weeks. I asked this question at the campaign, and I asked this now, the White House. Where is our FBI in this entire scheme? Are they looking at any of the evidence that this White House or the campaign have presented in terms of real-time data evidence of voter irregularity? Where is the FBI?
Yeah, I would refer you to the FBI on that, to the DOJ on that. There's
spoken with the FBI in the last 3 weeks.
Not that I'm aware of. But look, I would say that there are real questions on mass mail-out voting. We have put those questions forward. And we said this for the better part of a year. There was a bipartisan commission that talked about and identified the real potential for fraud with mass mail-in voting. Also, something that I would note is we talked a lot about transfer of power in the election, and it's worth remembering that this president was never given an orderly transition of power. His presidency was never accepted. In fact, before his election, we know Crossfire Hurricane was launched by Peter Strzok to pursue a baseless allegations about the president's ties with Russia. That's before he was president, trying to subvert the will of the American people. We know in August, Peter Strzok wrote a text message about an insurance policy against a Trump presidency, once again trying to silence the voice of the American people. In 2016, we know in October that there was a FISA warrant taken out to spy on the Trump campaign. And then the American people spoke, and they spoke commandingly in electing President Trump despite all of the odds. And what happened after he was elected? You had 70 lawmakers say we're not coming to his inauguration, Democratic lawmakers. You had Elizabeth Warren saying, we're going to attempt to obstruct the Trump transition by urging the Government Accountability Office to investigate the incoming Trump transition. In January of that year, you had President Obama have a by-the-book meeting where they talked about the Logan Act, using that act to go after Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Just before the inauguration, you had BuzzFeed promoting and publishing this bogus Steele dossier that's been widely debunked.
Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there again, you have a follow-up to a question that, of course, you even see the Mockingbird media trying to shut her down. And I think Kaylee has done a remarkable job in managing the actual media. They are a lot more tame, if you will, than they were when I think she first came in. But I think that's because of, the way she handles them. But you can see that they get pretty rabid, and they've gotten, I think there's a little bit of nervousness out there. There's a, to me, they are posing as if they are not concerned about these allegations and the evidence that's coming out. But I think they're actually more shaken by it than what they admit. And that's what, to me, that's the reason that they start yelling and coming undone before they finish these press secretary meetings. Thanks so much, guys, for coming in. Screamin' Eagle 2020. Thank you so much for coming in. And the Killer Whale channels, thank you so much for throwing caution to the wind and sharing out the stream. It says the left and MSM will continue to eternity in not acknowledging the obvious election fraud and continue nonstop with articles and commentary declaring Biden as the new president. Fair enough. Thank you so much. Killer Will also says this free republic is under attack and in danger of being destroyed by socialists and Democrats and fake Republicans. Well, it's interesting you say that, because I see a trend with the Republicans, if you will. I've even seen McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy. They're doing a lot of things that they're doing right now are things that you typically see on the left. They're running around touting, not that it's not a milestone that you have more women being represented in the Republican Party, but they're running around touting, well, I'm paraphrasing, we've got our first Korean American serving in Congress. Oh, we have our first Iranian or Iranian American serving in Congress. And I'm just thinking, at a time like this is your filibuster during a time like this. You guys, I think people are really, that the party is really, it seems to be really distorted, or just like, I don't know. It's a little bizarre. To me, but it meets the demands of the Great Reset. It meets the UN Agenda 2030. So, but it's not something that they've promoted, or that they've made such efforts that they've gone out of their way to push or promote. And in such a tumultuous time, I just think it's like a filibuster. It's a filler. It's fluff. You guys give us plenty of fluff, plenty of political theater, but the substance, you don't really see them, you don't really see them being really hard-lined about things that are much more pressing during a time like this. And hello to the fishing trucker. And AZ Infidel says, I heard the other day that the Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller, is having Special Operations Command answer directly to him. That's interesting. Thanks so much for sharing that, AZ Infidel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for taking care with the AI and the channelytics. I really appreciate it. So we'll take one liner, and then we'll have two more segments on this show. And it's just, to me, this is more of an establishment, I think, kind of a segment that we have people are showing themselves when it comes to the great reset. They're, they're not holding back as much anymore. It's being unmasked, no pun intended, but I think that they're finally starting to say what many people have been saying for years. Let's see. AZ Vidal says, I am here today to announce that I have directed the Special Operations civilian leadership to report directly to me instead of through the current bureaucratic channels, Miller said. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So with that said, I'm going to take you to, before we get into the Great Reset, we're going to round out this segment on the Sidney Powell statement. And the main thing is that on that, I was really, the style of, I would imagine that every attorney has their own technique and their own rhetoric. That I was a little bit shaken by the opening of the address between Giuliani and the address with Powell. But it's very much disturbing, very much disconcerting. I mean, no matter where you think, I say that all the time, where you think you are in the spectrum of politics, this is more than detrimental, and this is unsustainable. It's absolutely unsustainable if we cannot even trust the process. And I'm not going to use the word democracy because I think that's a loose term. I think that's become a term of double speak. I told you guys the other day, I suggest maybe you sharpen your skills on idioms, because if you don't, it's almost like you need to sharpen those up before you even enter some of the language and some of the rhetoric that you might encounter, because it's loaded. And the people that are not paying attention, the sleepy sheep, the wide asleep, they're not getting it at all. Okay, so here what we have is we're going to take this liner from Zero Hedge, and this is Sidney Powell says Trump team will sue officials, quote, to invalidate, end quote, election results, and an inside look into Smartmatic. Now, what are we coming up to? Maybe 3 or 4 programs? Was it the Hammer program? Now Smartmatic and Dominion machines. I mean, it's piled on, right? All right. So this is written by Tyler Durden. Okay, so I'm going to give you this. Shortly before the Associated Press announced late on Thursday that Joe Biden had won the state of Georgia after its Secretary of State said that Biden had remained ahead after a hand recount of the state's 5 million presidential votes, making him the first Democratic presidential candidate in 28 years to win the state pending any potential litigation by Trump. The president's attorney, Sidney Powell, warned that a, quote, flurry of lawsuits, end quote, await election officials who certify the results of the election, which she believes are fraudulent. The former federal prosecutor, who is also Michael Flynn's lead attorney in a case about lying to the FBI, told Fox Business host Lou Dobbs on Thursday that the Trump camp will press forward with legal action targeting election officials as they certify the 2020 results in several key battleground states that have been called for President-elect Joe Biden. One of them would be Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who must certify the results by Friday. So just for landscape, I'll give you this clip, and this one actually has been inserted here from a Twitter feed, and this is going to be Lou Dobbs. So I'll just give you this exactly here.
Of the president's legal team, also General Michael Flynn's defense attorney, a great American, one of the country's leading appellate attorneys. Sidney, first of all, thanks. I know you are going every which direction right now, busy as you could possibly be. Let's start out right now with the president's path to victory here as you and the legal team see it. If you could give us just that canvas very quickly.
Well, yes, Lou. The entire election, frankly, in all the swing states should be overturned, and the legislatures should make sure that the electors are selected for Trump. And it's going to have to follow the constitutional provisions that it be decided according to the amendment. It's just
let's turn it to Smartmatic and Dominion. Are they or are they not linked?
All right, so there you had a bit of a clip there from Lou Dobbs and with Sidney Powell. I mean, to me, it's one thing about Sidney Powell. I don't know a ton about Sidney Powell, but it seems like she's working within or at least she's framing things within what the law or what the Constitution says about this type of tampering or this type of interference with the process. And there's just so many different narratives that are coming out. I mean, you might look at one media section and it says one thing, and you turn to another and it says something else. So it's enough to make your head spin. So I guess, unfortunately, this is really not going to get, I don't think this is really going to get the right traction until maybe it hits the top court system, because right now I just think that the lower courts and these electorate officials, they are, they're playing their role. They're playing their auxiliary roles for now. So we'll keep going. So I want to round this one out here, but I won't play this. I don't think I'll play the second clip, but it says Dobbs also asked if the Trump's legal team will pursue legal action against the Dominion voting systems and Smartmatic. Quote, are you pressing forward with legal action against them for violations? End quote, Dobbs asked. Quote, not against the company and the software, end quote, Powell responded. Quote, but the suits will be against the election officials to invalidate the results of the election and force it to the legislatures and the Electoral College and then the Congress if necessary, end quote. As we reported earlier, Powell asserted that Dominion and Smartmatic are, quote, inexplicably intertwined, end quote. She appeared with the former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and other members of Trump's election legal team at a press conference in Washington, D.C. to accuse Democrats of an elaborate plot by his opponents to, quote, rig, end quote, voting machines in the presidential. And so I guess I'll go ahead and play it for you. Maybe you haven't seen this. Actually, no, I won't, because this is actually the entire thing. So I'll go ahead and round this one out with, during that conference, Giuliani said that, quote, he can prove that Trump won Pennsylvania by 150,000 votes, end quote, and that, quote, the people who did this have committed one of the worst crimes that I've ever seen or heard, end quote. The former NYC mayor also said there's a pattern in voting data that suggests, quote, a plan from a centralized place, end quote, to commit voter fraud in Democrat-run cities. At the same time, Powell said President Trump, quote, won by a landslide, end quote, and that their legal team will prove it. Quote, American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, end quote. She said, quote, we are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom, end quote. Powell alleged a transnational conspiracy involving the, quote, influence of communist money, end quote, from countries including Cuba, Venezuela, and, quote, likely China, end quote, to overrun the presidential race via election software. Powell also said that the legal team has testimony from an insider who unearthed provable fraud regarding voting machines and software used in multiple states. The person said they worked with Venezuelan military, outlining a conspiracy between Smartmatic executives, former socialist Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and election officials in the countries years ago. The whistleblower said that, quote, the software and fundamental design of the electoral system and software of Dominion and other election tabulating companies relies upon software that is a descendant of Smartmatic electoral management system, end quote. In quote, in short, the Smartmatic software is the DNA of every vote tabulating company software and system, end quote, the whistleblower said. So I can drop this one in the stream for you guys so that you might humor yourselves on more of that report. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I do have a clip for you. Thank you so much, Papa Bear, for coming in. I'm going to read your comment here. Papa Bear says lower courts are greatly compromised as many judges don't use the Constitution as a guide. Thank you so much, Papa Bear Alaska. And also from John H. Roberts Jr., she single-handedly backed down the DOJ for General Flynn. Okay, so for our final segment on today's stream, I'm going to be bringing you a clip from a bit of a news source, and it's actually, I find it interesting. It's entitled bigleaguepolitics.com, and from their Big League Economics, we have a bit of a video, and this is entitled "A Tired-Looking Hillary Clinton Shills for, quote, the Great Reset Agenda at Globalist Forum." So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. Thanks. You too. Have a great day, Papa Bear Alaska. I love that name. Thanks so much for coming in. All right. So I'm going to share that with you. Actually, I have it already. I'll go ahead and give you the context, and then I'll show you the actual clip that we have. So according to this, a recently... Thanks so much. It's I try to, it gets a little bit shaky at times, but I appreciate that so much. All right. So here we are. We have a recently recorded video of failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Man, that still burns, right? Who looks like she missed her most recent appointment for I really don't want to read this, but I'm going to read it. For a fetal cell spine injection. Shows the two-time loser shilling for quote the Great Reset, end quote, agenda. Man, is that not front loaded? I'm sorry. I just had to. Hi, James Beardsley. Thanks so much for coming in. So I'll keep going here. That's, like I said, that's front loaded. So although Clinton does not mention, quote, the Great Reset, end quote, by name, she endorses the technocratic socialist agenda that is obscured by the term. Quote, we're going to have to take a hard look at how we can better frame how the markets work. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip for you because that kind of digs into it a little prematurely there. But thank you guys so much for coming in, and thanks so much for taking care with the channelytics. But whether you're going with the conspiracy theories or whether you hang your hat or whether you're a complicity theorist, whatever, I just, that's kind of brilliant. So with that said, I'm going to let you hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will. Thanks so much. And welcome in William Welch. Thanks so much. And this is yours truly.
How the markets work so that we begin to move away from the shareholder-centric approach, from the short-term returns that practically every business CEO that I've ever worked with or even talked with has said, distorts the market. I think it's time to look at what can make capitalism, market operations work much more effectively and frankly equally to help build a real economy by shifting some of the incentives and assumptions that have grown into the system over the last 50 years.
Okay, so that you had was a bit of a word from yours truly, Hillary Clinton, and I will not give her all those front-loaded But as front loaded as it is, there's a ring of truth to it. So I applaud Big League Politics for their effort and the style of writing on this. That's Shane Trejo. It's very interesting, very colorful writing there, and very vivid, very vivid on that. So, Big League Politics is reported on many globalist operatives who are endorsing the Great Reset as a way to permanently transform society while the world is gripped with mass hysteria over the CV-19 scamdemic here and destabilized due to media and promoted race riots and migrant invasions. A leading globalist elite closely associated with the World Economic Forum has openly predicted that the world will never return to a sense of normalcy that existed prior to the CV pandemic. Klaus Schwab made the concerning claim in his new book, quote, The Great Reset, end quote. Quote, many of us are pondering when things will return to normal, end quote, wrote Schwab in The Great Reset. Quote, the short response is never. Nothing will ever return to the, quote, broken, end quote, sense of normalcy that prevailed prior to this crisis because the CV pandemic marks a fundamental inflection point in our global trajectory. So here again, you're starting to hear these same buzzwords regularly, like imagine, or, oh, we have a new opportunity here. They've even given the CV, like human characteristics, the CV's given opportunities. Oh, the CV has exposed all of these things. So, the CV is wearing so many hats. I mean, that's a pretty savvy virus, right? It's doing all of these things, and people are still denying it. So I'll just keep going here. But Klaus Schwab is one of the first, and we around here we do speak World Economic Forums pretty regularly because they're pretty much lockstep with the UN agenda, World Health Organization. So it's not new around here. I want to thank everybody who is new to the actual stream, and if you are new, I encourage you, just for kicks, to take a look at our community standards because we want people to be happy around here. But I do have savvy mods around here. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. So according to this, Schwab went on to predict that human history would be differentiated between an era before the pandemic and what comes after. He likened the historical event of the coronavirus pandemic to the birth of Christ, a peculiar slight to Christians who view the life of Jesus as an event quite unlike the spread of a disease. Yikes. Quote, radical changes of such consequence are coming that some pundits have referred to as, quote, before coronavirus BC and after coronavirus AC era. We will continue to be surprised by both the rapidity and unexpected nature of these changes as they conflate with each other. They will provoke second, third, fourth, and more order consequences, cascading efforts, and unforeseen outcomes, end quote, writes Schwab. Yikes. In addition to being a longstanding patron of the globalist WEF's yearly Davos gathering, Schwab was a steering committee member of the Bilderberg's meetings. He was listed as a, quote, international, end quote, member of the Bilderberg Group's executives, despite being a German national. Managerial elites have spoken in open terms about their plans to redistribute the private property of average people to mega corporations and governments, compel the public to eat insects as a replacement for meat, and to gradually eliminate the use of personal automobiles. Schwab staked out his vision of digitized corporate dominance of society in a recent speech given to the World Economic Forum. So that's a bit to chew on. I don't know if you hang your hat up or, I don't know. I wouldn't suggest that I wouldn't think that you'd be mowing on anything like that. But, these are elites and, they know best. They know what's best for your diet. They know what's best for many things. Hello, R. Jones, William Welch. Thank you guys so much for coming in. No worries. James Beardsley, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to close out this stream with more from the World Economic Forum. And then they give you a top 10 of, they give you their vision, in the top 10. And I will take you there. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And it is Friday. If you've made it this far on this segment, you'll go to the end with us on our final segment here. So if you're able to see the imagery, that's going to be helpful in this. I thank you guys so much for taking care with the Channelytics, and we will go there right now. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And so hopefully you found something there that that at least inspired thought in a world of double speak and in a cancel culture, because that's where we are. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I want to just give a shout out to everybody that's in the stream. And welcome into the Information Man Show. Thank you so much for coming in. And thank you, Jackson A2000. Thank you, AZ Infidel, for coming in and for all you do to support the channel. Son of Sam Zero, thank you so much. And yes, I am live. I don't know how can I prove that I'm live? What's happening over there on Periscope? You guys always add to the flavor, but it's always good. Thanks so much for coming in. Melinda Ann Burns. Thank you so much. Nick Smith, thanks so much for coming in. And Killer Whale Channels, thank you so much for being so solid and such a great supporter. And thank you so much for all that you do. And Papa Bear Alaska, thank you so much for coming in. It's nice to see you. Screaming Eagle 2020, thank you so much. And Fishing Trucker, thank you so much for coming in. And John H. Roberts Jr., thank you so much for coming in. R. Jones and William Welch, thank you so much for coming in. And the Information Man Show, thank you so much. It looks like I have a comment from James Beerley. Is it true that Gates, Fauci, and Soros are the founders of Moderna? I know Fauci and Gates were college roommates. Yikes. Why would we take a vaccine from them? Now, James, I can't substantiate any of that. I can't, not sure about those claims. But, I will say it's a small world. I will say it's a small world. And I do think that the elite world is even smaller. And I think, many elite, they rub shoulders with, can I say their kind, that's what I think. So I don't think that, I think that many of these people run in the same circles, and I think anything's possible. I say nothing's off the table, and nothing surprises me. But what does I am surprised. Hello, William Welch says thank you for someone who looks so young. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. You're most generous, William Welch. Well, I mean, it's just I don't know. I say this regularly. I'm a collection of experiences, and I say this. I'm a lifelong learner, and I think I think that's important, even in these times. Even when they say what you see, ignore what you see and believe what you're told. I still think it's advantageous for us to increase our lot and just commit to growth. And I think that's what I do. It's more about self-preservation, I think, for me. And so you guys, I always encourage you guys that this show is by no means absolves you of personal responsibility or self-education. Not to say that you guys are not doing that, but we have a culture that, people that just kind of follow social media. They don't read books with spines. They don't look, they're looking to change things. And that's why I say I think this is a good time to journal, and a good time to hold on to what you know, because I think that's going to be the change is going to be even more dramatic going forward. So thank you so much, William Welch, for coming in and for lending your comments and lending your wisdom here. This is, to me, this is not an echo chamber channel. And I think I personally can learn something from everybody. And I really appreciate you for coming in. And that's funny. It's Hillary Clinton, she has a very distinguished voice, and I think it's going to be around for a long time. So I don't know, get your filter together, because I think you're going to hear more from her, even if it's in the form of a scream or a screech. Let's see. Oh, hi, Anthony Scioli. Nice to see you. And William says, look how much money they spend on AI. We've got the real thin between our ears. All right, guys. So I think that is going to round us out. But I thought maybe it's nice to check in on the World Economic Forum. It really is, But it's definitely, they have an agenda. And when people yell conspiracy theories, I mean, there's actually there are people behind the conspiracy theories. I mean, are you? It's good. Is there a conspiracy fact, or do you just keep your eyes down and your head down and your eyes up? Is that what you do? But I say, if you don't, in this time, in this day and age, you don't come to truth on your own. You really don't. You really don't come to it on your own. And yeah, but some people, they just keep patting themselves with, just repeating other people's talking points, but they don't really but they don't quite get to truth on that. They just kind of keep padding it with emotional claims or other, or other activist claims and a bit. So once again, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment. And honestly, I didn't want to, we did keep this reel under 60. And I appreciate you guys for all that you do. And thanks so much for taking care with the AI. And please, I just want to remind you guys one other thing, even though we're still under 60, to check out the community tab, because yesterday I did share the nomaskforkids.com. And I did say, you can, if you have a firsthand account, I think they're looking for firsthand accounts for that movement. And yeah, so if you were interested in that, if you want to share something, I'm not sure if this is, maybe this will become a part of a methodology for some level of reporting, or who knows. But they're asking for firsthand accounts, and I think that's because maybe something could come out of it. But we are starting to hear more of, we're hearing more about violations of our institutions, whether it be schools or whether it be governors. We're hearing more of that. So if you've got a kid that's in school, if you're in a custodial position, or if you're a teacher, I'm not sure what they're seeing in classrooms. I don't have any firsthand accounts, but I think it's a nice site. So I'm just going to flash that for you really quickly. You can either take it from here, or you can go over to the site on your own. So, after 6-7 hours a day, it can be kind of painful to wear that mask. I don't really know if what can be done. I do know that, of course, some people's kids are going to private schools, and some kids are in public schools. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes I think that there's a thin line between public and private schools. And I'm not sure how they're managing it, but people want their kids educated, and they don't want them psychologically damaged, and to suffer. So maybe you guys can find the best options out there. Maybe this site could be a resource for you, or maybe you could pass it down to someone else that might have concerns. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I appreciate all that you guys do around here. And I'll have one more thanks to the sponsors. And I will be wishing you guys a great weekend. And if you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. All right, guys, thanks so much again. I'm going to read a couple of comments here. R. Jones says, JK Bug Out just got fired for not having his temp taken. He is a truck driver. And R. Jones says, my granddaughter got extremely ill from wearing a mask. My daughter will not believe that was the cause. So sad. Yeah, that's really tough to hear. It's definitely a challenge, and definitely it will be unprecedented, the stories that will be told, and who knows the long-term effects of what's going on. So all the best to you, and maybe the site will be of some help for you. And also look at the mask edification link that's on the community tab as well. You might find some things helpful on there. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, and have a great weekend.